Hello everyone and welcome to GPVWC for round 10 of the 2021 Super League Championship. And there on the screen you see the venue for today's event. It's the Circuit de Nevers Magny-Cours in France. 70 laps of racing here and it's going to be exciting, a full Grand Prix length. And I'm going to be joined by Wopke Hoekstra. Wopke, your first GPVWC Super League broadcast of the year. Have you been watching it? What have you thought of the season so far?
Yes, I've been watching bits and pieces because I've been very busy around this time actually, but I finally managed to get one and it's going to be amazing, I think, because the season has been very tense so far. We've seen people win races, leave the championship as well from very interesting positions, and yeah, that makes for a very exciting championship, Caitlin.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to have you here. Of course, your regular commentators, Jake Sperry and Jacob. I forget his surname, but anyway, they aren't here. And sadly, we also don't have Ross McIntyre, who was with me last week. But Wopke Hoekstra very kindly agreed to jump in. So that's why you have me and Wopke in the commentary booth today, and of course our usual broadcast director Argo doing an excellent job on the cameras there. Let's take a look at some of the statistics behind this upcoming race. The car development upgrades. This is important, of course. Super League, one of the only sim racing categories where there's a realistic sort of upgrade system throughout the course of the year. And there you see what kind of points the teams have been putting into what kind of upgrades. You can see that statistically, the best developed car, or the best developed team in general, is the Green Stripes, which is interesting because Green Stripes are a little way behind in the championship at present. So today could be a very good opportunity for them to build up some points in ways that they haven't been able to so far in the championship. Of course, they are currently last in the championship, having only scored 1 point so far. The least developed car so far is the Cenobite, as it has been for the last few rounds, although they have had a bit of an upgrade coming into this round. RSR is kind of in the middle of the group. They have only put upgrades into 2 specific things, much like the Epic and the Red Archer racing team, with rear wing downforce and overall body drag. So very much going for an aero theme over the car. And of course, the teams you've got to be looking out for today are the main 4 in the championship, which have been Evolution, Holland, GSR, and Edge. GSR, of course, listed as GSR VBM on that list. So you can see there how they all pair up against each other, and you can get a good idea of who's going to be competitive in what areas from that. Wopke, anything of note that you spot from that?
I always find it interesting to see what teams go for. You can see a lot of teams going in the same direction, but also teams going in a completely different direction. Like you said, there was a team going for all the aero upgrades, but there's also Edonis, and they are actually going for all the mass upgrades. So they're basically reducing all the mass in the car and making sure the car is as light as possible to get as much straight line speed as possible, I think.
Magny-Cours is quite a tight, twisty circuit that relies on acceleration zones rather than flat-out top speed or high cornering speeds, as much as there are some very high-speed corners. Let's take a look at the things powering these cars, of course. The engines, the power plants, pushing these cars along. You can see we have 4 different types of engine on the grid: Reventon, Quasar, Minotaur, and Valiant. Minotaur still only speccing into the engine boost, which should give them plenty of torque out of the corners. And at a corner like this, where there's a lot of acceleration zones, or at a circuit like this, where there's a lot of acceleration zones, that could be pretty good, actually. This may be a good track for the Minotaur engine. And of course, the only team not to have specced into engine boost is Reventon, or the only engine not to have specced into engine boost is Reventon, because they have been trying to make their engine as light as possible throughout the course of that season, and have almost maxed that out, actually. So a very, very light engine. The car's almost floating away in the corners, Wopke.
Yeah, because again, Reventon is the Edonis engine. So once again, even with the engine, they've tried to make the car as light as possible, which is very interesting. And something I just realized as well for myself is that a lighter car also helps you in the corner, so it could be really good for them here as well.
Very much so. Of course, without the aero, they probably would float away in the corners. Let's take a look at the driver's standings then, and you can see how it's changed after the last round in Germany at the Hockenheim ring. Yannick Bock, of course, still leading this championship, and he won the last round. He has now got 4 victories in this season, breaking off Jone Simoncic's 3 straight win streak. And Simoncic was eventually disqualified from the last race. I haven't yet found out exactly why. But he, of course, lost only a couple of points. I think only 2 points from that. But it does mean that he's even further back than he would have been otherwise in the championship. Stefan Rohr, of course, still second in the championship, and he's on a bit of a streak right now. 3 straight podiums as he's gradually crept up the order. A bit of a dark horse in this championship. Not winning as much as Yannick or Jone, but he's really sticking it to the big guys. Leon Bock, of course, is the top driver not to have scored a victory yet. Still, all of the Bock victories have gone to his brother Yannick. Then, of course, we have Colin Spork, the youngest driver on the grid, who finished 3rd last time out. Maurizio Gobbi, Giuseppe Ragusa, Adam Maguire, who hasn't been here in a long, long time, I'm afraid to say. He left the series after India. and then Maciej, Winnick, and Riot killed. And that's how the championship stands as it is. There were a couple of disqualifications and a couple of penalties after the last round, so I'm just going to go and update myself on those, see exactly why that's happened. But you'll be glad to know that there are no grid penalties for today, so what you see in qualifying will be what you get, Wopke.
Yeah, and I figured out the disqualifications. They are from failing to send in the Motec logs after the race. So
that does tend to be what disqualifications are for. Of course, all of the point scoring drivers have to send in their telemetry from the race, and if they don't do it in time, I'm afraid that's an instant disqualification because the stewards simply can't be sure that you haven't cheated. So both Liam Duval and Yanni Simoncic were disqualified from the last race as a result.
Yep. In the meantime, we see the constructor standings as well, with Evolution leading from Holland, and then we have the GSR Sim Racing Center in third place.
Qualifying now has begun. We've got 15 minutes of it, and the drivers just gearing up for their first flying laps. I'm watching David Fidog heading around. I'm not sure if he is the first driver out on track, although he's one of the first. So let's take a look at the former double champion, as he's being followed around there by Yanni Simoncic. But David Fidog starting his flying lap first, I believe. Heading through the Esterol Corner. This one's so fast, so grippy, and it tightens up on the exit as well. One of the most difficult types of corner is the kind that tightens up as you go through it because it catches you off guard. Now down into a hairpin. He actually wasn't the first driver through. I think Tomasz Vlok is ahead of him on the road. But let's keep watching David since we've started. He's giving us a wonderful tour of the Magny-Cours Circuit de Nevers into the 180-degree corner, simply known as 180-degree. Slightly weird corner name, I know. And then up into a chicane. And towards the final sector of the lap. I like that last corner there. It's one that's very rewarding when you get it right. Slightly curved braking zone. And here's another one with a difficult braking zone as well. Very small apex there. You've really got to hit it. And there, that is the most difficult, most dangerous part of the circuit, the final chicane. There are going to be many drivers who get that wrong over the course of qualifying, and possibly the race as well. So after the first few flying laps, it's Stefan Ruhl at the top of the times list. Colin Spork is second, and then it's Lauren Kiersmakers, and then the rest of the field. Those times are going to tumble, though. I would be very surprised if any of those stay as these drivers' fastest times, because the track's going to keep getting grippier, and the drivers are going to keep getting more confident and possibly more desperate, Wopke.
Yeah, very true. And as the session goes on, we will also start to see more mistakes potentially from drivers going into that final chicane, for example. But yeah, those times are always going to fall. You see it every time in every series as well. The grip starts to rise. There's just a little bit more grip for the cars to stick to, and they just get a little bit quicker overall. And yeah, as you said as well, the driver's going to push a bit more as well. So it all works in favor of those drivers. And we will see the times drop. But Stefan Ruhl is the first driver to go under the 110.
Indeed, he is. Still 3 drivers not yet, who haven't yet started laps. Yannick Bock, Jeffrey Fournier, and Marco Licini. Although all 3 of those are on track right now, so they will be going faster very, very shortly. Now, one thing I've noticed is that pretty much everyone went out at the same time, and apart from those 3 drivers, no one waited at all, which means we're now in a bit of a lull period as everyone gears up for their next flying lap, rather than preparing to complete a flying lap. Here's Yannick Bock, who's just started one. Bock, one of the fastest drivers in this series, of course, racing for Evolution. Whoa, that's wide through Esterol. Keeps it under control, although went all 4 wheels over the white line. You're allowed to do that now because the rules now state that the game decides the track limits and decides when to penalise track limits. But I think he could have done with keeping it a bit tighter there. Now, down into one of the trickier parts of this course. And that hairpin is at the bottom of the hill. It's kind of through a dip, which is difficult for the grip. The grip kind of goes away from you on the apex, and because of the and a little twitchy there through the I think that's the Nürburgring chicane, but because of the angle of the corner, you can really lock up a tire through that. And Yannick coming towards the final sector, the final chicane of the course. Couple of quick sectors, and it's second best for Yannick Bock so far, so still not able to demote his rival Stefan Rohr off the top step. These two have been vying for positions in recent races, and Rohr has not really been the best qualifier recently, but his race pace has been absolutely fantastic. So Yannick Bock goes up to second. Geoffrey Fournier recently went up to fifth. Right, Kilk's on a pretty good lap here actually. He's just coming through the middle sector. Meanwhile, Stefan Rohr goes fastest of anyone, and he's only a few seconds down the road from Riot. So we're going to get a barrage of quick laps coming in here, Wopke.
Yes, we will, and that's the thing about private qualifying. Of course, these drivers will all be going out at the same time, and even the 3 drivers who didn't set a lap initially, they went out at the same time as well, but they decided to drop their lap and go back to the pits basically. So that's why they were on the different schedule. And yeah, we see times going in, but still nobody has beaten Stefan Rohr, and nobody's gone below that 110.
And so I got my chicanes mixed up. The one I called Nürburgring is actually Imola, and the quicker, really scary chicane in the second sector is the Nürburgring chicane. But of course, a lot of the corners here named after other race circuits for some reason, and we also have the Adelaide hairpin, which is the really, really tight one at the end of the long straight. It's now Holland Racing Team 1-2. Lauren Kiersmix is in second, less than half a tenth of a second behind Stefan Rohr. So HRT have got their car absolutely tuned up, which sadly is something we never heard in Formula 1. But there's a completely different HRT, obviously, Holland Racing Team. And Lauren, probably the most experienced driver on the grid. He's been a part of GPVWC Superleague since 2005, before the days where they even raced together on the track at the same time. What they used to do back in those days is basically record a Grand Prix distance and then send in their data and compare those to other drivers. Anyway, as he sets that, once again we're in another bit of a lull period as everyone is going for pretty much the same qualifying strategy, going out at pretty much the same time, coming in at the same time to set their cars up for more flying laps. One thing I have noticed though is that Moritz Kropp is still yet to set a competitive flying lap in his Adonis engineering car, but he is now out on track. Just set a decent first sector. I say decent, it's about 8 tenths down on the fastest that we've seen overall. So he's not going to be contending for pole right now, but at least he could get himself up into the points paying positions with this. Moritz, of course, stepping in to that Adonis engineering seat. Last round we had Liam de Waal back, although sadly that does appear to have only been for 1 round, and he's out again. Whoa, big twitch, big spin for Moritz Kropp, and he's going to have to do an entire another lap to get back to the pits and get ready for another flying lap. So a big mistake there for Moritz Kropp, and that keeps him at the back of the order for the time being, although he was so far down on his previous lap that was still an improvement. Yannick Bock just improved in the first sector, although his second sector hasn't been great. Talking of great second sectors, Stefan Rohr improving again. Let's keep watching Yannick Bock as he comes into the pits. Never mind, let's switch to Stefan Rohr. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes into the pits as well. Yes, he does, because they are setting up for what might well be one final run. But you saw how quickly they were, or how hard they were pushing on their in-laps and how quickly they were going. Of course, there's no reason not to do that, because the quicker you can get back to the pits, the quicker you can go out to set another lap up, okay?
Yeah, exactly. And you want to maximize your track time. Of course, you don't have any traffic, so you want to go as quick as possible because then you might just squeeze out that extra lap that could get you at least further up the grid and possibly pull. As for Moritz Krop, I understood from the team boss Menno Klont that he was a very late call up, so he's probably still getting used to the car. And for him, it's just about getting the lap times in, getting the laps together, making sure he gets in control of his car and sets himself up well for the race, possibly.
Fidek there, setting the fastest third sector of anyone, although he's just been demoted. He went 7th. Fabrizio Gobbi just went 5th. Maciej Winnick now going 5th. So a barrage of quicker times coming through. Although the leaders have got slightly off schedule with this bunch, so they're going for their final kind of flying runs a bit later than this bunch. Keersmakers is still in the pits, and I'm not surprised by that because this is quite a short track comparatively, and as a result, you can go out really quite late. And the drivers who are on track right now, this may not even be their final runs. It probably won't be for a lot of them, because they'll just about have time to come back in, get some new tires, take a lot of the fuel out if they were. Well, I don't know why they would be going higher fuel before, but anyway, go out with low fuel and see what you can do. Yannick Buck through the Adelaide hairpin is actually being chased on track now by Stefan Roll. Of course, they can't see each other. This is private qualifying, but both of them just set very quick first sectors. Down through the Adelaide hairpin. Buck's all over the place. Buck in the grass. Okay, so that's an abandoned lap there for Yannick Buck. Stefan Roll, though, still clean and smooth as anything. He's still the only driver in the 109s and showing that he can go even faster still. He's going to be a very tough nut to crack in the latter stages of this qualifying session. Not sure if anyone can do it. Colin Spork, actually, he's a bit of a dark horse on this lap. We'll keep an eye out for that one as Roll decides to abandon the lap. I'm a little bit surprised by that because that one was going very, very well. Spork doesn't. Spork crosses the line. No improvement for Spork. He was only 3 thousandths down, but no improvement. Never mind. I think he made some mistakes in that third sector because his first and second sectors were about what Roll's been doing, and his third sector was about a 10th off. So Spork, who's 2 tenths off as a whole, still some time to be gained there for him as well. A lot of these drivers are showing that they haven't yet set their absolute ultimate pace, but that's okay because we still have 2.5 minutes of this qualifying session remaining as Leon Buck there goes up to 7th, and that means of course there's still time for them to head out and get one final attempt. Who do you think it's going to be, Wopke?
Well, at the moment, I think overall Stefan Rio looks the quickest because he's currently in first and he's been improving on his own lap time as well a couple of times already. He just hasn't managed to get it together, but neither have the other drivers, to be fair. And interestingly, this lap time has been set right at the beginning of qualifying, and we set the times we're going to drop, but it doesn't look like they will very much.
Bit of an incident there for Jeffrey Fournier on screen. In fact, we got a question in the YouTube comments from Michael Ayres saying, are the commentators watching the same screen as us? Because no one reacted to Yoni Simoncic having a spin. Actually, no. I'm watching in game, so if I do miss something that that you see, that's why. I also have the broadcast up on the other screen just so I can keep an eye out on it, but I can see more that's going on when I can control the cameras myself. Anyway, preparing for the final qualifying run. All of the top guys are out on track now. In fact, the top driver not to be out on track is Leon Buck, who just exits the pits now, and he's going to have to really push on this outlap. Otherwise, he's not going to make it around in time to start another one. Fabrizio Gobbi, whoa, big crash into the pit wall. So Gobbi's not going to be improving anymore. That's very much his session over. But everyone who's crossing the line after him does still have an opportunity. David Fidok starts another lap. Leon Buck is about to start another lap as well. He's actually been pushed out of the top 10 since the last time we checked in on him. So still some time to be gained. Lauren Keersmakers has just started his final flying lap. I'm going to watch this one relatively intently because as we speak, he's not just the only driver within a tenth of a second of Stefan Roll, but also the only driver within half a tenth of a second of Stefan Roll. And that shows you that he is very much on par with his teammate here and his teammate's pace. The HRT is looking very, very quick still. Keersmaker's fastest first sector of anyone. It's in the 21.8. That's very fast. Lauren Keersmaker's now through the Nürburgring chicane, which is not really anything like any of the corners at the Nürburgring itself. Maciej Winnick's first sector time not too far off Lawrence. So Winnick here could still be a contender for pole as well. He's still not too far off that top time. Through the second sector comes Lauren Keersmakers. What's the lap? David Fidok completes his final flying lap, and he goes 6th with the fastest third sector of anyone. Keersmakers is fastest in the second sector too. Surely Keersmakers is going to be on for pole here. Through the final chicane. Whoa, big slide! And he's going to improve. And if he crashes across the line and gets pole as a result, or gets pole, and Winnick goes fastest there. Winnick improving dramatically in the final sector. Oh, but only by 1,000. That is insanely close there for the pole position. Maciej Winnick takes it by 1,000th of a second. Yerny Simoncic also crashes his way across the line and also takes provisional pole. Sorry, not provisional pole, but also improves. He takes 4th place, so he's on the second row of the grid here. And I think that's the lot. Wow, a dramatic way to end the qualifying session, with Keersmakers sliding and crashing his way across the finish line, taking provisional pole, but then just being edged out by Maciej Winnick in one of the closest finishes to a qualifying session that we've ever seen in Super League. Okay, I didn't think we could even top the qualifying session we got from Hockenheim, but that may have just taken the cake.
Yeah, that's insanely close. I don't think you get any closer than that unless you get identical times, of course, but this is really close. And yeah, top 3 within a 10th as well. And everyone else behind is still really close. If you look at P12, Geoffrey Fournier, he's only 4/10 of pole, and that's really close. And actually, we saw a lot of people spin out of that final chicane. I'm not really sure why. I think they may just be trying to maximize their speed out of the chicane. And maybe just a little bit too much, and then they spin the car, because the chicane itself is very bumpy, and yeah, that's probably what causes all the spins, because we've seen multiple people do it, and hopefully they don't do it in the race.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, luckily for them, the start-finish line, or the finish line in particular, is so close to the exit of the corner that they can afford to just stamp their feet on the throttle and hope for the best. And if they spin, then sometimes it won't even matter because they'd have finished the lap by that point. So it's complicated, but it's a complicated way to finish a lap cleanly, I suppose. Not particularly cleanly, but they get the lap done, so it doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. There you see the results. Maciej Winnick takes pole position just over Lauren Keersmakers. And weirdly, the screen has glitched out and is putting Stefan Roll in equal second with Lauren. That's not right. Something's gone wrong there. Yerny Simoncic is 4th on the grid, followed by Yannick Bock, then David Fidok, Fabrizio Gobbi, Leon Bock, Colin Bock, and Matthew Williams. That's almost more like it. Anyway, so the screen kind of glitching out a little bit, but it's okay. Matthias Moose will be P11, not P10 like that says. Then Geoffrey Fournier, Ryan Kilk, Giuseppe Ragusa, Tomasz Boch, Jimane Zapala, Sandeep Singh, Daniel Stepkowski, Mirko Lucchini, Giuseppe Saracino, so both green stripes cars there. Unfortunately far down, considering that they have put in so many development points to their car. Then it's Robin Panzer, Florian Guy, Christian Pascal, Moritz Kropp, the late call-up, who will be starting from 24th on the grid, and quite a way off the back of the rest of the pack, I'm afraid to say. So Kropp still with some rust, I suppose you could say. Not through any fault of his own. He just hasn't had as much practice as a lot of these other drivers have, who knew that they'd be racing here for much longer than he did. There you see, once again, the statistics of the circuit, 4.412 kilometers long, which really should be 4.412 kilometers short, since this is one of the shortest Grand Prix circuits out there. Hasn't hosted a Grand Prix since 2008, of course. That is an official Grand Prix, but in Super League, we've come back here a little bit more regularly than that. And it is a more popular circuit to the current day French Grand Prix track, the Circuit Pour Ricard. So I think a lot of people will be very happy about that. There you see the calendar. In fact, that's good timing since I was talking about the calendar. But we have the winners. You can see the winners on the right hand side of the races. Liam Duval took the victory in Melbourne, although sadly is not still with us in this championship. Yannick Bock now has 4: Bahrain, India, Azerbaijan, and Hockenheim. And then of course Stefan Roll with 1, and Yerny Simoncic with all of the others. That's 3 in a row for Yerny Simoncic. And with Roll and Duval taking the one-off victories so far. Still to come in this championship, of course, some of the most iconic race circuits in the world. Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, Monza in Italy. Of course, Singapore, one of the best street circuits that is run in the modern day and age. Suzuka, Japan, that's a very popular one for the drivers. Austin is not such a popular one amongst the drivers, although amongst the fans, I think it is, because it provides some pretty good racing. And Sao Paulo, of course, is just, I mean, people get very protective of Sao Paulo whenever they talk about changing the location of the Brazilian Grand Prix, and for good reason, because it's a great track, it's an established track, it's got history. And luckily, we're ending the championship there, and I think it's a perfect sort of season finale circuit. At the rate this championship's going, we may well see the championship go right the way down to that round. So that's the calendar. Those are the races and the winners that we've had so far, and the ones that we've got to look forward to. But today, of course, we're at Magny-Cours in France. And there's no point looking forward to the races in the future, when in just a couple of minutes' time we're going to have a absolute classic, Wopke.
Yes, we hopefully will be having one, and it's going to be very exciting. All 3 of the top championship contenders, they are well in the top 5 actually, because the top 2 is occupied by Leinek and Keersbekers, who are a little bit further down in the championship actually. Leinek is in 9th and Keersbekers is in 13th, so they will be having a very good opportunity there to get a good result for themselves.
I'm getting Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm getting a little distracted by the YouTube chat right now. David Yunt saying "Mache, super mache," which doesn't have much of a ring to it, but I'm sure it has all sorts of ring to it to the ears of Mache and Winnick, who did a very good job in that qualifying session to just eke out pole position. Eon H5 saying 1000th with a shocked face. And I'm sure that you were as shocked as all of us, because that was quite a qualifying session. Liam Duval saying wait 23 drivers, actually 24 drivers. It's just there was a bit of a glitch on the results screen from the qualifying session. But yeah, and Jake Denahan crashing after the line is indeed meta. You can't exactly straight line the chicane. You may well be forced skyward at that rate, but you can give it your best shot, and a lot of these drivers did. Sorry for the interruption there, Wopke. I thought you'd finished.
Yeah, no worries. I was saying they both haven't had a single podium this season, so it could be a very good opportunity for them to get one, especially from those starting positions. One of the things we do have to keep in mind, though, is the weather. Now,
yeah,
I know we always say it's like, oh, there's going to be rain, and there won't be any rain, and there probably won't be. But there is a slight chance of rain here at this circuit today. And currently it could be falling somewhere in the middle of the race, a little bit of rain. So that could throw some extra spice into the mix as well.
don't want to be a party pooper, but it does tend to be with Super League that if it's not raining in qualifying, it doesn't rain at any point in the race. But I may be completely wrong about that, because the weather, of course, is not that predictable, and especially in FX2, sometimes you don't know it's raining until the track is absolutely drenched. So yeah, could be very interesting. Could throw an extra bit of spice into the mix. But to be honest, I don't think we need it. Looking at that qualifying session,
We
and
definitely
of
don't
course,
need it. Yeah.
yeah, and of course with the circuit this short as well, we saw in some of the other categories, notably Super League, some problems with backmarks as well. Lapparies happen relatively quickly here, especially in Super League, where the cars are slightly different and there's a lot more varied strategy. And the races are longer, of course, as well. So you do get more Lappary here, and that's another thing that's going to add a bit of spice to the pie. Hopefully not too much. Like I said, in Super Cup, we had an incident where a race leader was taken out in an accident with a backmarker, and we certainly could do without that, considering when we have a race this close, we all want to see the winner decided through racecraft and strategy, rather than by anything of that sort. But it could happen, and that's another thing to keep an eye out for. So we don't need rain to make it an exciting race, but it would make it even more exciting, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely agree. But let's not get our hopes up for that because, like you said as well, it doesn't usually rain if it doesn't rain in qualifying already. And to be fair, it seems to happen a lot that, like, even if the prediction for the whole day is rain, the rain will always fall right after the race or right before the race, like, so you don't actually get it in the race. Which is something.
When I went to the British Grand Prix in 2017, all weekend they were talking about rain, and it was bone dry, and the whole time, I mean, I got dreadfully sunburned, and the whole time I was thinking, how were they talking about rain? And then literally as soon as the race finished, a few drops started to fall, and I went and did the grid walk and everything, and then got back to the grandstand to pick up my stuff, and it chucked it down. Oh my goodness, it was like standing in a shower. And yeah, the same thing happens in Super League. It really does.
Yeah, it really does, and that's a bit unfortunate every now and then. But I don't think we need it today to get a very good race. Something to keep in mind here as well is I don't know about the tire wear or anything right now with these cars and how these drivers do on tires, but the pit lane is very short, so it could be interesting to maybe try an extra stop actually, and maybe push a little bit harder on the tires. So that could be a very interesting one as well to look at.
Now, as for tyres, the top 10 in qualifying have to start on the tyre they qualified on, the tyre compound they qualified on. So for all of those, I imagine it will be the red-walled, softer compound. I don't see anyone doing anything different here, considering considering we didn't see anyone out there on different tyres in qualifying, but I may have just not been looking. Further back, you get much more free choice, and that often comes into play in races because you get the drivers who are starting 11th, 12th, and around that area, going for a slightly alternate strategy, and if it works out well, then they can end up really mingling with the leaders by the end of the race. In many ways, 11th is a much better place to qualify than, I mean, sometimes as high as 6th. So that's the first thing you've got to look out for when it comes to strategy. The second thing is changes in strategy as the race is actually going along. Because as Sean Jones points out in the YouTube chat, tyre wear is very bad here in these cars. An extra stop would be interesting. And some drivers are going to leave their strategies quite flexible. They're going to leave it so that as the race begins, they're not sure whether they're going to do maybe a 2-stop or a 3-stop strategy. And it could depend on the amount of traffic they get as the race goes on, or the amount of incidents that happen, or if the rain comes or whatever. And all of those things could change the strategy as the race is going along. And of course, last time out at Hockenheim, we saw that, where Colin Spork suddenly took the lead of the race, and we weren't sure why. And then it suddenly became clear that he was doing a 3-stopper, whereas a lot of the other drivers around him were doing a 1-stopper. And then some of the other drivers followed suit as well, and it so nearly gave them the win. So things like that happen all the time, and that's what you've got to be looking for as the race goes on. Anyway, we're now on the starting grid, preparing for the start of the formation lap, and then 70 laps of racing here at Magny-Cours. Wopke, it's going to be an absolute thriller. What are you looking forward to about this race?
Well, of course, we want to see the championship leaders in action, but also the guys in front. They were really close together, so there's going to be literally nothing between them, and hopefully it's going to be the same in the race. And then the strategy is going to be very important here as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and we're going to have some really good fights, hopefully.
Fantastic. Once again, I should remind you to leave your comments in the YouTube stream, and predict, maybe if you dare, who's going to come out on top out of this one. We can now take a look at the full starting lineup as it is, and good. We don't have the same kind of glitch that we had before. Maciej Winnick on pole position for Edge Esports, alongside Lauren Kiersmakers, Stefan Rohr, and Yannick Bock. I think that might be Maciej's first Super League pole. Yoni Simoncic is 5th, followed by David Fidek. Good qualifying for those two. Fabrizio Gobbi is P7, and then Leon Bock in the other Revolution car. Colin Spork P9, another top 10, and another one for Matthew Williams in the MDR car, substituting for Michael Francesconi. Then it's Matthias Moos, and starting from P12 will be Jeffrey Fournier, and Riot Kilk, Giuseppe Ragusa, Tomasz Wok, and Germano Zapala just outside of the points paying positions. Remember, they go down to P15, so that's where you've got to be aiming. Sandeep Singh is P17, then it's Daniel Stepkovsky, Marco Licini, and Giuseppe Saracino. The Green Stripes cars came into this as one of the best developed cars, and they are a long way down the order. And it's Robin Panzer, Florian Geyer, Christian Pascal, and Moritz Kropp has elected to start from the pit lane, probably because he wants to stay out of any incidents that might happen in the first few corners, and he was a little way down on pace in qualifying, so it might end up being a good decision from him, but we shall see. So, looking at tyres, as expected, the top 10 are on softs. Matthias Moos from 11th is also on softs. Jeffrey Fournier is also on soft, meaning that the top medium runner is Riot Kilk in P13. Usually you see the top medium runner in positions 11 or 12, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Fournier and Moose are going for maybe one more pit stop than would be expected, because otherwise I would be surprised to see them start on the softs. Giuseppe Ragusa is also on the softs. Also on the mediums, as are a lot of the other drivers further down the order. Anyway, onto the grid come our leaders, Maciej Winnick and Lauren Kiersmakers. The two HRTs will be chasing down Maciej towards turn 1. There's no heavy braking zone in turn 1, which makes it a very interesting start, because it's all about track positioning and all about the initial getaway, and then line yourself up for the Esterol hairpin. Watch for the 5 red lights, because when those go out, we'll be underway for 70 laps of racing. Everyone is lined up in their grid boxes. Still no lights yet, which is a little bit strange, because everyone is lined up and they're making them wait for a very, very long time. But here they come. Here are the lights. And as I said, when they go out, we'll be underway. As we are now. Go, go, go. Maciej Winnick leads us away from the grid. No, he doesn't. Great start from the HRTs. Oh, and a bad start from Winnick, who almost had Simoncic on his outside. And Simoncic jumps ahead of one of the HRTs. Stefan Rohl down to 5th. So a slightly bad start there from Rohl, who initially had a great launch but got bought. Now Winnick's coming back at Rohl, back at Kiersmakers on the outside. Kiersmakers has the inside. Oh, big slide! He's going to force them both wide. And there's a touch. and another touch, and Simoncic is up the inside now and up into second place, passing Winnick. So not the cleanest start from any of these drivers. Keersmaker somehow has the lead. Oh, different lines into the 180 hairpin. Winnick drops from the lead down into third position. Then it's Bock fourth, Raw in fifth. Down the back, I think everyone except Pascal was clean. Pascal appears to have lost a lot of time. Not sure exactly how that happened, but he's lost about 10 seconds to the rest of the field. So an eventful start to the race. First it looked as if Winnick was going to lead, then it looked as if Keersmaker was going to lead, then Simoncic and Rural both went side by side with Winnick and had to drop back. Simoncic somehow got through anyway, and now Keersmaker leads the race, Wopke.
Yeah, brilliant start from Keersmaker and Simoncic as well. And Ruo actually did have a good start, but then he got kind of boxed into the first corner, and he didn't want to risk losing out too much, and basically gave up 2 positions and dropped down to 5th now, with Yannick Bock also overtaking him. So he's behind his championship rivals now, so he needs to do some work. As for Pascal, I just looked at the replay of the start, and he basically went a little bit wide in the first corner and he spun on the grass, so that's unfortunate for him, but he's still running and there's still a good chance for him to get back into the race as Saracino drops back as well.
Fair enough. I'm glad you have replays, Wopke, because I don't. But anyway, Jeffrey Fournier there just got past Colin Spork into the Adelaide hairpin. So that is for P9. Fournier doing a good job so far in this race. So as I said before, it's Keersmaker, Simoncic, Winnick, Bock and Royal, the top 5 as they stand. But things could very much change over the course of this race, and probably will. The rest of the field still... Oh, and Saracino off the road once again, and that's because he's got no front wing, Wopke, so an incident further back. What's happened to Saracino there?
Yes, he's tried to brake late for the hairpin because he was fighting someone, and then he went wide to the left and lost his front wing.
So 23 drivers still remaining in this race, relatively unhindered. Of course, Pascal did drop back, but at least he's still got his wings. The same cannot be said for Saracino, who's about to hit the wall. Saracino might well be out of the race here because he's in the crash barrier. Anyway, back up to the front of the field. Keersmaker has already got out of DRS range of Yerny Simoncic, so Keersmaker's extending his lead. It looked as if he was going to do that in qualifying until he spun out of the chicane. Maybe lost a couple of tenths, definitely lost pole position with that little mistake there, and is now showing, I am the fastest car, I have what it takes to pull away from the field, especially since Simoncic actually didn't qualify that high up compared to these drivers. Remember, Simoncic has come through from 5th on the grid, due to Winnick and Royal and a bunch of other drivers having being slightly boxed in the early stage of the lap. We're going to see a replay at the start of the race now, so let's take a look at that in a few seconds time. Here we go. You see Keersmakers will get the launch, will get alongside Winnick when the power goes down. Lick of blue flame from the back of Winnick, and there you see Simoncic getting really boxed in on the outside and having to back out. One of the, I think the other Edge Esports car got very wide there. And in the background you may see Christian Pascal going off. Oh, talking of going off, Fournier and Gobby coming together slightly and just about keeping it on the road. Somehow, I think they may still come together here if they're not careful. Fournier gets the place. Great move from Fournier. Oh my goodness, and Golly was going really, really defensive into the Adelaide hairpin. He was coming across to defend from Fournier. And it almost looked like a late braking move, although Fournier was alongside him by then, and he just gave him enough space. Just. It was one of the closest moments you can have without actually having an accident. They did rub wheels plenty of times, 2 or 3 times over the course of the corner, and just about got away with it. Anyway, another lap completed, and Keersmaker's lead is out to 2 seconds, so he's really getting away from the rest of the field now. He's not just out of DRS range, he's doubled it. Maciej Winnick is the top driver with the DRS. He's gaining on Simoncic. Has to settle for 3rd in the braking zone this time around, but he was really close that time around. Now, there is only one DRS range on this circuit, which is slightly unfortunate for some of these drivers. I personally think there should be another one out of the Adelaide hairpin. Yes, it would be very risky approaching the Nürburgring chicane, but these are some of the top drivers in sim racing. They can handle it. up the hill through turn 10, and towards the end of the course, we head again with the race leaders, Simoncic and Winnick especially, and Winnick still trying to line up Jani Simoncic. That was a really smooth line through the chicane there from Maciej Winnick. That's one of the least hindered by that chicane that I've ever seen a car get. That's a really, really nasty chicane there, mark my words. If you've never driven it, you've got to take my word for it, but it is very nasty, and you will crash about maybe 10 or 15 times when practicing for an event like this. Into the Adelaide hairpin once again, still Winnick sticking behind Simoncic, but they have been breaking away a little from Yannick Bock, who's now under pressure from Ruel, Wopke.
Yeah, Ruel actually staying really close behind Bock. I was just about to say that. And actually the fact that Keersmakers is running away so quickly says to me he could be looking at an extra stop here, especially with the pit lane being so short and already gaining this much time. It is a perfect opportunity for him to get an extra stop out and still potentially get a win.
Totally, and of course if he was one of those drivers that I was talking about earlier, who's keeping their strategy flexible, then if he wasn't intending to do a three-stopper before, I think he probably will now. Or at least he probably will if he's able to continue stretching his lead out like this. It may well be that Simoncic and Winnick are trying to bide their time a little bit just to keep their tyres intact. Simoncic might be. Winnick is looking a little racier, and you can tell that by just how close he gets to the back of Simoncic into these corners. And wow, he looks a lot quicker than Simoncic in a straight line. But Winnick here obviously being held up by Simoncic and obviously wanting to get through as quickly as he possibly can, to give himself the flexibility over his strategy and over how he goes about this race. It's a difficult one, it really is, because if you're caught up behind another driver like this, you can lose a lot of time. But it's Jani Simoncic, and Simoncic is another one of the fastest drivers in this field. Winnick knows that he's racing him, not just on track, but for position at the end of the race as well, and that's going to be giving him a little bit of a headache because the frustration must be setting in.
Yeah, and it seems to be very hard to really get close enough to the car ahead to try and overtake. So he's really just sitting behind and hoping that he will get that one opportunity. And the main overtaking opportunity, of course, is in the Adelaide hairpin, where they're heading to right now, actually. And yeah,
he is flying in a straight line. Look at that. He gains maybe 0.3 of a second down the straight every single time, and then just drops back in the corners because it's a difficult circuit to overtake at. As you can't overtake and you get boxed in through turn 1, turn 2. Those are difficult corners to follow the car in front of you in. But he just flies up to the back of Simoncic every single time they reach that Gulf Straight.
Yeah, it's something I noticed on the on the car in qualifying as well, that he seemed to be pretty quick, and actually even more so, Simoncic seemed to be a little bit slow on the straights compared to most other cars. So he might have set the car up to be a little bit more on the downforce, which could potentially help him if there was any rain to fall, but it doesn't really look like it currently. So that could mean he's got a problem. But Keersmakers currently is running away, and the more these guys start fighting, of course, as well, it will only help Keersmakers out in front.
Indeed. So
Mlinek is only he's like half a second behind coming onto the straights, and this could be a chance possibly.
Yeah, but he's done this every lap. He's been just about that close, and he gets right up to the back. He was maybe 1/10 of a second, not even that, behind Simoncic as they reach the apex of that corner. And as I said before, That's gotta be frustrating. But yeah, Simoncic, I can understand why he set his car up for the corners, if indeed that's what's happening, if indeed that's why he hasn't got the pace in the straight line. And of course, some of that will also be the fact that Mathieu has DRS and slipstream and whatnot. But Yanni, of course, if he has set his car up for the corners on purpose, it's because there are just so many corners, so many fast corners, so many slow corners, so many difficult chicanes, etc. on the circuit, and it means that yes, you know, it will be difficult to overtake a car, and also difficult to defend if they're able to get alongside you. But if you can be fast enough through the corners to make sure they can't get alongside you, and you can hold someone off like this, then it's actually a very good strategy, and it actually allows you to gain a lot of time over the course of a race. And Rural, they're going through to fourth up the inside of Buck, and wide goes Buck, and the two Bucks are side by side now, Leon and Yannick. You've got Leon giving way to Yannick, who attacks the chicane, is seemingly disappointed to have lost, or seemingly frustrated to have lost that position to Rural. Rural seemingly coming out of nowhere there, because last time I looked at the two of them, he was not really in attacking range. So Rural making the move, getting ahead of Yannick, and Leon playing the team game and not hassling his teammate too much. Now look at the chain behind them. They've got Fido, they've got Fournier, they've got Golly, Spork, Williams, Matthias Moose is in DRS range. That's quite a chain there.
Yeah, there's still a really long chain behind this pack of cars. Of course, there's now a little bit of a gap between Mleinek and Ruau because of that move. Actually, Ruau forced Bok a little bit wide, and that might be why he's so frustrated with that move, because I think Ruau went in a little bit too deep there. Yeah, in the end, they stayed on track, so I would say it's legal. And he made the move stick, and he's now in fourth place.
And now Fidek and Fournier side by side. It's the battle of the F names, with Fournier going through. Fournier, of course, we know he likes to overtake, and he's showing it off today so far. Started, I think, 12th, maybe 11th, but he's up to 7th position now, so a good start to this race for Jeffrey Fournier, with Fidek losing a position. Fabrizio Gobbi, of course, is right on the tail of both of them. Further ahead, once again, Mathieu Winnick got so close to the back of Yanni Simoncic into the Adelaide hairpin that time, and almost took a chunk out of his rear wing. But once again, not able to get through. He's got to line the car up through Esterol. Got to hope that Simoncic doesn't get a good run onto the straight, but Simoncic is so consistent and so good that it's much easier said than done. Let's watch it again. This is looking good, actually. Oh, that's very good for Mathieu Winnick. He is closer than he was a lap ago, and he's going for it, surely. He's got the DRS open, he's approaching, and he dives to the inside. He's there, and through he goes. Now, Simoncic, can he get the switch back? No, he can't, so Winnick does take second place after all this time of being cooped up behind his rival. He gets through with a fantastic overtaking move, very well executed. Simoncic knew that he didn't have much of an opportunity, much of a chance of fighting that, and just had to watch him go past.
Yes, brilliant move by Mleinek. Set himself up from the chicane already. I saw him push a little bit hard through that final chicane in the previous lap, and he set himself up perfectly to get that run on the long straight and get the move before the chicane.
Indeed. So Mathieu Winnick now, let's see what he can do. Can he reel in the gap to Lauren Keersmakers? The gap came out to 5.6 seconds. Can he gain? Mathieu, actually, I think it was more like 5.5 seconds. It's just that they were going through a corner as I said that. But Mathieu has all of that time to gain. His last lap was 0.2 of a second faster than Keersmakers. Of course, he doesn't have to gain it all right now, and strategy is still going to be a big part of this race. But now that he's free of Simoncic, his goal will be to pull away and catch up. That's what he will be doing. Further back, Simoncic now has Stefan Rull to worry about. Rull slightly out of DRS range, and does still have his own chain of cars behind him to worry about. But he will be vulnerable in due time now that he doesn't have Mache behind him, and he has some equally fast drivers breathing down his neck. And that DRS chain still goes back all the way down to, I think, it goes down further than 11th place. It goes down to maybe 12th place there. So from 3rd or from 4th to 12th, they're still dragging each other around like a locomotive, Wopke.
Yeah, definitely, and it's going to be interesting now to see if the gap is still increasing, but it seems to be that the gap is still increasing between the Keersmakers and Mleinek, just a little bit. Mleinek does seem to have a better pace than Simoncic, but he's already pulled 5 seconds, so that's a really good gap, especially in this series where you don't get very large gaps that easily. And yeah, I think Mleinek has made the perfect move as well now, because Simoncic is now between himself and the pack, basically. So even if they catch up to Simoncic, they still need to pass him, and that's going to cost them a lot of time as well. And Mleinek gets the perfect opportunity to get a bit of a runaway now, although Simoncic seems to be pulling back a little bit and seems to be close to DRS again.
Exactly, so great opportunity for Maciej Winnick. He is lapping faster than Laurent Keersmakers here. Not so significantly faster that we're going to have to be watching that gap intently over the next few laps. He's not going to overtake him before the first few pit stops are made or whatever. But he is lapping faster, and on the last lap we'll see how much, or on this lap we'll see how much faster. About 3/10 there. That's about what he's been the last couple of laps as well. Keersmakers still has the fastest lap of anyone in this race so far, which was set near the start of the race. Although that probably won't stand. I'm expecting that to change quite a lot throughout the course of this race, especially when people make pit stops for fresher tyres and they have more reason to push, say on in laps or out laps. Nothing changed into the hairpin that time around. Still, we've got that absolute chain of cars, nose to tail to nose to tail to nose to tail, but nothing quite changed that time around. Surely, though, we're about to get the first few pit stoppers, because we're on lap 15 out of 70, and if you do some mathematics, divide 70 into 3, and then provide for the fact that the prime tires, the yellow wool tires, can last you longer. And Keersmakers in, yeah, just as I expected. So Keersmakers in. Little surprised that Keersmakers was one of the first in, although I know that you weren't, Wopke, as you were saying earlier, that he is going to make one more pit stop than a lot of his rivals. And Keersmakers showing that you were very much right there, and I never doubted you for a second. Keersmakers on the yellow wool tyres and coming out in a little bit of traffic here. That's not ideal, and that's one of the reasons that I was surprised to see him coming in quite so early, because he had a lot of clean air to benefit from otherwise. But now he's going to have to fight past Riot Kilt and potentially some other drivers as well. Lauren Keersmakers not able to do it into the hairpin. Little boxed in here. Maciej Winnick, meanwhile, leads the race for the time being. As behind him, Simoncic pushes hard, trying to keep Stefan Roll from getting the DRS range. So, pit stops have started. Who's going to be next up here?
Yeah, I wonder if it's going to be Mleinek or anyone else who was close behind him, a few seconds behind him. They won't straight away overtake him, because he obviously he had a good gap. Interestingly, some people in the YouTube chat saying it's I think Michael Ayers earlier and Sean Jones now as well. They were saying the free stop is going to be the way to go, and then possibly a forced stop for the people who try to do an extra stop. And to be fair, lap 15 is really early.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Fournier into the pits, by the way. Also, Colin Spork and Sandeep Singh making the stops at the same time. So we are well and truly into the swing of this race right now. Winnick, Simoncic, Roll, and all of the other big names in the series stayed out. But those are the drivers who came in further back. So that's how it stands. Sandeep Singh, they're getting passed on pit exit by Daniel Stepkovsky. Those two not really fighting over the... Oh, and Spork getting tangled up with Ragusa there. Spork locking wheels with Ragusa on the exit of the Adelaide hairpin. That's not ideal. Losing a lot of time in the process. And Ragusa mercifully backs off into the Nürburgring chicane, but Spork losing a lot of time in that one, and potentially getting some suspension damage as well. I don't see any noticeable steering damage, but sometimes that's not everything, and the car can handle slightly awkwardly without the car hanging to one side on a straight. Winnick now into the pits as well, as is Fidok, as is Gobby. And Fournier, wow, Fournier touching with Lucchini, making the move stick. That's exciting. We're going to see a lot of overtakes like that as drivers on different strategies get boxed in behind other drivers on different strategies to them. And Yannick Buck just went up the inside of Stefan Roll. They're side by side heading towards the straight. Oh, they're almost locking wheels as well. Buck gets the move done. Lovely move. And I was so distracted by the pit stop that I didn't see how that one started. But it ended in Yannick Buck taking second position. Wopke.
Yes, and Colin Spork just overtook 2 cars in one corner. He overtook Geyer and Lucchini, I think. And he's up to P50 now as he's trying to make his way through the traffic, the people that are yet to pit. And he's trying to chase Fournier and Fidok now.
It's frenetic stuff out there. Simoncic now leads the race only just from Yannick. Surely one of these two is going to come in on this lap. And yes, indeed, Yerne. So Yerne ducks into the pits. Yannick Buck stays out and leads the race for the time being. And we're going to see a lot of different leaders in this race simply because of how many pit stops are going to be made. I would not be surprised if we do see some drivers going for 4 stops in this race. Okay. Personally, I think more drivers are going to do 2 stops simply because that is how it traditionally goes in Superleague, even at the circuits where you'd expect there to be very high rates of tyre wear, like Silverstone or Shanghai or here, for example. But yeah, definitely some drivers who started further down the order or have less to lose or whatever will be going for a 2-stopper just to see if it works. Maciej Winnick there past Germano Zapala out of Adelaide, made that stick, made it work, but those two aren't racing for position. Talking of racing for position though, Raw not allowing Buck to get away for the time being, and of course he can't afford to because he's now got the other Buck on his tail, Leon. I don't think Yannick will be backing Stefan into Leon at this point because it's a little too early for strategies like that, especially considering that and Leon's into the pits anyway, so Leon makes his stop trying to undercut Stefan Roll. This is going to be a really difficult race to keep track of, okay?
Yeah, it will be a lot of pit stops happening at different times, so probably a lot of different strategies as well. But look at this, Laurent Kiersmakers, he's already only 5.5 seconds behind Yannick Buck, which is after a pit stop as well, so he's already nearly made up the full pit stop. So yeah, he could really go for an extra pit stop here, and he would still be ahead of these guys, I think, by the end of the race.
Raw side by side with Fidok on pit exit. They got Leon Buck there on the outside. They got so close, and I'm glad they knew that the other one was there. Ooh, they almost didn't, you know. This is them banging wheels down the straight towards the Nürburgring chicane. It's usually the driver with the nose ahead who gets the right of way into that, and Leon Buck in that occasion got the move done. Meanwhile, up ahead, Yoni Simoncic and Jeffrey Fournier went at it. These two are much more likely to be fighting for position here. Of course, it's still difficult to tell because of how the strategies are playing out here, but they're now being a little held up by Robin Panzer. Buck and Fournier in from the lead of the race, and that means that Laurent Kiersmakers temporarily leads it. Riot Kilk also in, he was staying out relatively long. So it's Kiersmakers from Winnick and then Zapala. Winnick, of course, may well end up being our effective second place, because Kiersmakers, of course, was leading the whole thing before this all kicked off. So Lauren leads once again, followed by Maciej, and then the top drivers who haven't stopped yet are Zapala and Panzer now getting really close with Fournier, and that's allowed Fournier to get alongside Simoncic, Who's going to get their nose in front? Who backs out? Neither of them back out. Whoa! Fournier getting right over the sausage curb on the inside. And right over the runoff area. That almost ended in tears there, and I'm so glad it didn't. Yannick Simoncic stays fourth just. Oh, and Fournier going at it into... Oh, they touch again. Goodness, that was close. And Fournier runs across the escape road. And that was a very ambitious one. So ambitious. Further back, Spork passed Panzer. And Book was not quite able to go through at the same time. Panzer won't be allowing them to get through that easily because, of course, he is racing them for position on the road, and also his teammate is racing them for position in the order. So Panzer playing a bit of a team game here, as he is entitled to do, and won't be entitled to DRS on corner exit though. I think Yannick Bock is going to streak through here. Will his brother be able to come through as well is the question. Into the hairpin. Further ahead, Fournier is once again going for it on Yannick Simoncic. Oh, and a slight touch on Simoncic from Colin Spork. Those two, I think, touched last. No, they didn't. I'm thinking of Spork and Rural. But Fournier getting past Simoncic this time and up into fourth place. It may end up turning into third place when his teammate Germano Zappala comes into the pit in due time. Whoa, this is tough to keep up with, but I think that in the effective order it's Kiersbekers from Winnick and then Fournier. Fournier in third place in this race, effectively, because he's made so many pit stops and he's worked his strategy so well so far. And yes, it's far too early in this race to be celebrating a driver's achievements, but this has been a drive and a half from Jeffrey Fournier so far, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also Colin Spork as well. He would be up to fifth if Zappala pits. So he's also gained a lot of positions for the pit stop. And those guys both pitted on lap 16. So that's quite early. So they might do an extra pit stop still. So we're still yet to see what's going to happen to them come the end of the race. But so far it's been a great drive by them. And they have had some really good overtaking maneuvers as well. Which is always good to see. Earlier in the race, by the way, you may have noticed a brief yellow, which was for David Videk and Fabrizio Govi coming together slightly. Videk got tapped into a spin, but they quickly continued on their way without any major damage. So they're still going, but they've dropped a few positions.
Moved there from Matthew Williams and Matthias Mies as well while we were talking. David Videk's had some rotten luck recently. Of course, in the last race, came together with Liam Duval and went tumbling head over heels, and landed in the catch fencing. Not a great way to end that race for David Videk, especially since he really did not deserve for his race to end in that way. Germano Zappala there giving way to Jeffrey Fournier up in third place. Those two, of course, teammates at Scuderia Basilia, and Zappala will now be tasked with fending off Yannick Simoncic for as long as he can. Simoncic having a much better... Oh, big twitch from Zappala. Simoncic having a much better race this time than he had at Hockenheim last time out, where he just didn't have the pace that he normally shows. Finished a long way down the order and then got disqualified. And Spork, oh, he didn't know Spork was there. They touch. Goodness, I thought Simoncic was going to be absolutely flung at the wall there. Somehow they get away with it, and they're going 3 wide on corner exit. Oh, this is not going to end well. Someone's got to back out of this, surely. Spork backs out of it. Do either of the two ahead? Wow, they all make it, just about. Sport coming through on corner exit on the inside, and they both get past Germano Zappala. That was so close to being a disaster, as Simoncic pulled out of the slipstream of Germano Zappala's car on the Gold Straight. He didn't know that Sport had put his nose on the left-hand side of his car. Almost got turned across his front. That could have been a mega accident there, Wopke.
Yeah, very lucky to escape there, all of them. And to be fair, it has to be said, Scuderia Basilia with a perfect strategy there for Zappala. I know it's cost him a little bit of time, but they've put Fournier out of the DRS range with Simoncic, and now he can drive his own laps and he can try to pull a gap to everyone behind.
And Zappala is now pitted, so that puts Williams into the top 10. Fournier, of course, is on the podium now. Spork, yes, he is in 5th place. Wow. And Colin Spork with the fastest lap of the race so far as well. And he set it... no, he didn't set it on that last lap. His last lap was invalidated. He's right on the back of Yannick Simoncic, though. He's in the DRS range. Got very close in the the braking zone for the Adelaide hairpin that last time around. Now this bunch here, Fournier, Simoncic, Spork, etc., have lost a lot of time to the leaders. I don't think they're going to be contenders for wins in this race at this rate, but definitely this is definitely the fight for the last podium position as it stands. Of course, still a long way to go in this race. We're nowhere near halfway through yet. Still 10 laps to go until the halfway point in this race. But as it stands, these three looking very good for a podium or for top 5 finishes anyway. On to another lap of racing. Spork's last lap, also very quick, much quicker than Simoncic ahead of him, although they still lose time to Fournier. Fournier appears to be one of the quickest drivers on track right now. Yannick Bock, I think, might be the quickest driver out there, judging by his last lap time, 1:12.680. And further back, I think someone just made a move as well in the lower part of the points. I didn't quite see who that was, so apologies about that, but it's getting very close in the lower part of the top 10 between Ragusa and Ragusa, Raw and Williams. Raw's lost a bit of time in these pit stages, hasn't he?
Yeah, it seems to be the case. Yeah, he's dropped a few positions. Of course, he did go quite late, so he might be doing a stop less than some of the people ahead of him now. They obviously gained a little bit of time on the fresher tires when they pitted a few laps earlier, so that could be a difference. Also, I want to say a quick honorable mention to Moritz Kropp, who's actually keeping up with the pack pretty much. He's only a couple of seconds behind Florian Geyer in P21. He's currently in P22 himself, and yeah, not too bad for his first drive and with the lack of practice he's had.
Sorry, just slightly distracted there by some chat, but anyway. Kears Makers is now only 3 seconds ahead of Winnick. So I told you Winnick was bringing in the gap for the lead, and he is. Still not to such a rate that it's going to be an imminent danger of changing, but it's at such a rate that definitely you can't write off Winnick for the win of this race just yet. Further back, Sport got very close to Simoncic that last time around, but they are still 4th and 5th in this race at that order, and we're now watching Riot Kilk, Tomasz Vok and Sandeep Singh fighting over the last few points paying positions. It's one of those races where it's very, very difficult to work out where to look. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it really is, because there's so much going on up and down the field. And that was only the first pit window. There's going to be at least maybe 2 or 3, probably not 3 more, but there's going to be at least 2 more pit windows. Major pit windows over the course of this race. The drivers have to use 2 compounds of dry weather tyre unless there's rain at any point in the race. I'm presuming there isn't. A lot of these drivers would have served that already. Now watch Sport gaining on Simoncic to the inside, and Simoncic knew he wasn't going to be able to fight that. He doesn't have the straight line speed for it, and almost seemed to back off and allow Sport to go through there. Such is the speed difference between their 2 cars in a straight line, and Colin Sport goes through into 4th place. Wopke.
Yeah. I think Simoncic knew that was the position lost, and he didn't really want to fight it because then he would be losing too much time himself. And I think he knows he's on a different strategy than most people ahead of him, so he kind of wants to maximize his own strategy right now, and instead of fighting these people ahead of him on track.
Now, I've just received an interesting statistic from Menno Klon that Colin Spork is apparently no longer the youngest Superleague driver. Moritz Kropp, who was invited to drive for Adonis, he turned 16 just a few days ago, apparently, making him the youngest driver in the Super League field currently, and I think potentially, or a few months ago, sorry, not a few days ago, potentially the youngest of all time. I don't know how old he is compared to how old Spork was when he made his debut, but a lot of youngsters on the grid right now. And Menu saying that he signed him up because he believes in him for the future. And while this race does appear to be a little bit of a test drive for Moritz Kropp, who's in the pits as we speak, he is an exciting prospect for the future, and seems to be quite a mature young driver. Up at the front, Maciej Winnick is now 2.9 seconds behind Laurent. I think we should keep you updated on that gap over the course of this race. Now, one thing to note is that they are on the same compound of tyres, so this isn't that Maciej has just put on a fresh set of softs and has started to reel in the gap. And they're both on the mediums, and Maciej is doing up on pure pace alone. With that being said, though, I did just see him have a little bit of a twitch out of the final turn and lose about 0.2 of a second on that last lap. We're now watching the box. That's Yannick Buck there, ahead of his brother Leon Buck. The two of them running right together. Quite evenly matched drivers all in all, with Stefan Rohr now to the outside of Leon. Leon defending. Stefan not able to get through, but yeah, quite evenly matched drivers there. Yannick still has just about the upper hand on Leon overall, and has had those wins, whereas Leon has not yet been able to take one. Though Leon, of course, the top driver in this field without a victory. He's taken 2 podiums, many top 5s. Definitely has an opportunity for another one today. And of course, when they stood on the top step and the second step of the podium together in Azerbaijan, I think it was a sign of things to come in the future. So Yannick and Leon, very evenly matched drivers, even though Yannick just about has the upper hand on his brother right now. Not sure how long that's going to be the case, because Leon is fast catching Wopke.
Yes, he is. And look at Ragusa, in the pits now, as well as Vidux, so some more people pitting now already. Lap 31 of the race. And
seems about right, because halfway point into this race is 35 laps, of course, so this is about when I'd expect the drivers on a 3-stop strategy to make their second stops, especially if they went soft. Of course, they will have to use the mediums at some point in the race, but for the drivers that went soft, yeah, now would be a good time to pit, I think.
yes, definitely. But interestingly, that doesn't seem to be the case for some drivers, but that's okay. They can still make the 3-stop work if they extend their third stint. Like, you can make the stints as long as you like, of course, because you don't have to refuel, so you can just drive until the tires die off, basically. Or you could just pit early and make a longer stint later on in the race on lighter fuel if you like it better.
Of course, a lot of the drivers will be trying to maximize the amount of time they spend on the softest compound of tyre, and as a result, the drivers who are 3-stopping, you'll expect to see them go on soft tyres for 3 of those stints, and mediums for only the other 1. Meanwhile, Simoncic still in DRS range of Spork, but that straight there demonstrated exactly what I was talking about, in that Spork is just nowhere near, or Simoncic is nowhere near as fast as Spork in a straight line. You saw how slowly he was getting up to speed in relation to the Edgy sports car, and by the end of the straight they were going maybe the same speed at best. I think Spork was still going just about faster, actually. So Spork's car, the Edgy sports car, definitely more set up for straight line speed, to the extent where it was like watching a 2017 Mercedes versus a McLaren from the same year. I remember those old days where the Honda engine used to be down on power by maybe 200 or so horsepower, and cars used to fly past them like they were chained to a post. And while Simoncic is blisteringly fast in the corners, he hasn't set his car up for a straight line speed today. So that's the trade-off that you have to pay if you're going to go for a strategy like that. And it may still work out for Yannick, but it does mean that for the time being he's stuck behind Colin.
It does, and to be fair to Jurre, since he's been passed by Colin, he's been keeping up quite nicely, and he actually said, like you said as well, and I think he's not even losing much time to the leaders as well, so this is actually probably perfect for him. He can profit from the DRS from from Spork, and he can just sit back and relax and save his tires, I think.
Let's keep watching them as they head up the hill. Both of the bucks chasing like a pack of wolves. Of course, the trouble is when you have two bucks in the same fight, it's sometimes difficult to tell who's doing what, especially if you see them side by side. And into the pits now comes Colin Spork. Not truly surprised by that. Spork had to make his pit stop sometime soon, and he's elected to do it on this lap. That does free up Simoncic for a little bit now. It means that he's going to be losing less time through the corners. Colin exiting the pits and decides that now is a good time to use his medium tyres. Doesn't get a completely clean track. Sandeep Singh is just ahead of him. Sandeep Singh in the Adonis engineering car. But for the time being, Colin Spork in 14th position, and will probably get past Sandeep as quickly as he possibly can with the DRS and the fresher tyres. Now, Wopke, you have a lot more Super League experience than me, and I presume you've raced at this circuit. What do you think is more important out of fresh tyres or soft tyres? As in, which of those do you think is going to get you the best lap times initially?
Ultimately, I think if you have, I think for these cars, at least that's the way it is in Super League Lights this year. Is when you pit, the first few laps will always be very good, even on the mediums. But yeah, especially on the softs, you can get you can get a lot out of them. But then after a few laps, they really start dropping already. As Fournier actually exits the pits now, he's been into the pits, and Sandeep Singh actually got out of the way of Colin Spork as well. Fournier is still ahead of Colin Spork as he was before the pit stops as well.
And getting a lovely DRS slipstream, and he's going to be past Wopke before the corner here. So Fournier actually gaining more than he lost from coming up behind Tomasz there. That's worked out pretty well for him. And now he gets a bit of clean air before he catches up to Riot Kilk. But for the time being, he can enjoy some clean air in front of him. Of course, then you have the issue of whether old tires are worse than hard tires. It's all about balance in motorsport, and this being one of the most strategic races that you're likely to see this year is no exception. Lauren Keersmaker's in from the lead. Maciej Winnick takes it briefly, and on my screen, Keersmaker's is still on medium tires. Now he's going to stop again, looking at the lap counter. But that means 2 stints on medium tyres when I'd expect 3 stints on soft. But anyway, maybe he's going for... I mean, he wouldn't be going for a 4-stopper unless I'm very much mistaken. He's now going for Yannick. Whoa, and going very late. And almost ploughing into the back of Jenny Simoncic, but gets the move done on Yannick Buck. That was a little close there. Often if you pass one car into a hairpin like that and there's another right in front, you can just cream into the back of them. But luckily keeps it clean. Now he has a problem here because Jenny and Yannick are some of his closest rivals in the race and in the championship, and neither of them will want to let him get through or get away particularly easily. If Yannick can come back at him, I expect he will, and Lauren is going to have to get past Yannick before that can happen. Lauren on the fresher tyres, both of their tyre compounds the same of course, and Yannick will stop soon, but I wouldn't be surprised if Yannick leaves his car out for as long as it takes Lauren to get past, just to hold him up and throw a spanner in the works of his strategy here. This could be an interesting fight, Wopke.
Yeah, it could definitely be. Of course, he's on the fresher tires, but he's still got to make the pass at the end of the straight. And here's his first opportunity. Is he going to go for it? He has got so much top speed. Look at him. He's already side by side. He's going to go through into second place, and that's an easy move in the end. And now he's got to make sure he gets the most out of those fresh tires. Because Mleinek actually set his fastest lap of the race, his personal best, straight after he saw that Keersmaker's pit. He knew he had to profit from that.
That looked much easier than I was expecting from Lauren Keersmakers. I thought that Yannick would force him right to the edge of the circuit, but Lauren flies past back into second place. Now the gap between the leaders is 14.6 seconds. If Winnick was to pit now, then he would definitely come out in second place. So it's hammer time for Maciej Winnick. I think he knows that he's going to come out in second place, whatever he does now. But if he can use the clean air that he has to his advantage and pull in that gap, then he can force that battle wide open. Let's see how long he stays out for. Mathias Muster coming into the pits, being passed by Geoffrey Fournier, who sets the fastest lap of the race as he goes past. He's the first driver into the 111s in this race so far, showing you just how quick this track actually is and how quick Geoffrey Fournier is on those fresh, soft tyres. Stefan Roll side by side with Leon Bock, and Leon fends him off just about. Roll trying to gain these places back. Leon jumped him in the pit stages, and Stefan's struggling a little. So further back, Spork and Wopke side by side, and Spork gets past Wopke relatively simply, although I think Spork's losing a little bit of time in this pit window as well, and maybe a couple of positions when it all sorts itself out. It all depends on where the drivers that I've just mentioned come out, Simoncic, Spork, etc. Winnick's in the pits now, so Winnick pits from the lead. He'll come out second, but, well, actually, will he come out second? Because Joni Simoncic is right there as well. What's the gap going to be? He puts on soft tyres, so it's going to be push, push, push for Maciej Winnick. And actually, through go both Joni, Yannick, and Leon. So and Stefan on the inside too. Winnick has a lot of traffic ahead of him, and yes, he's got the soft tyres, but he's not going to be able to use them to their full potential here, as long as he's got all of this traffic ahead of him. I don't think that's gone to plan there for Maciej Winnick, especially considering Lauren Kiersmakers has clean air, and Simoncic is holding up a massive chain of cars. Winnick passes Rill, but I really don't think this has gone to plan, Wopke.
Yeah, definitely not gone to plan, and I thought Ruo could give Linnick a hard time as the teammate of Lauren Kiersmakers actually, but he went wide into that corner and gave the position away for free, basically, so that's not gone to plan either for, I think.
And this is going to be allowing Kiersmakers to re-extend the gap that Winnick was chiseling away over time. Let's see though, does Simoncic or Bock come into the pits at the end of this lap? That could really help out Maciej there, and may help out their own race as well, depending on their strategy. They all stay out. A little surprised by that, because in a three-way fight like this, surely someone's going to decide they want some clean air. But anyway, Evolution must be playing a team strategy somehow. Through Esterol to the exit, DRS is about to be activated when they cross that line there. And surely there are going to be some moves this time. Maciej leaving it later up the inside of Leon Bock. Bock sees him coming, touches in the side pod. Behind them, Fournier and Gobby are side by side, but keep watching this. Maciej Winnick up the inside of Leon Bock and gets through. So Winnick does get through, although lost a little bit more time than he would have hoped for. Fournier did indeed manage to pass that pass for Brittu Gobby cleanly, made it stick. Good for him. And that's another overtake to his tally.
I think the only reason these guys are still staying out is because they want to make sure they can do the two-stop. I think they're doing a stop less than Kiersmakers and Linnick. They don't want to stay out, but they have to stay out because I think it's their only way of getting a good result now.
Yeah, because they know that if they come in now, the best that they can do is third. But if they stay out, then and risk things and maybe hold off Winnick, then they could still get a. Did it just get darker? Did the clouds just come over?
Yeah, there are definitely more clouds, and actually I've looked on the radar and there seems to be some rain around the
sorry, Spork to the outside. Oh, they're three wide, they're three wide! They're three wide! Spork on the inside, and Winnick coming through past both of us. And Winnick passes both Bock and Simoncic. What an overtaking maneuver. That was unbelievable there from Maciej Winnick. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw them going three wide into there, and Simoncic passing Bock. Wow! Simoncic diving straight past, back past Bock, not wasting any time at all. And now going super defensive up into the Imola chicane. That was amazing. Argo, can we have a replay of that, please? I'll wait to see that pop up on the broadcast, but that was stunning stuff. Wopke, what did you see there?
Yeah, brilliant move, man. By Maciej Mlinek. Impressive move as Geoffrey Fournier also moves up to P7 now. So great move by him as well. He's still moving up the field nicely. And actually, he's like really close behind Stefan Ruo now. So, yeah, he's still in a very good position to get a good result here.
Williams and Gobby in the pit, so that puts Wok up into P9. I think Zapala's going to get into the P10 as well. I think we've got the replay now that we can show you. This is what happened between Bok, Simoncic and Winnick. Winnick's going to make it 3 wide. Wow! Not comfortable with just letting them battle amongst themselves. Thinks, I have an opportunity to be taken here. Amazing stuff for Maciej Winnick, and if he goes on to win this race, then that will be why. That will be the moment we can look back to and go, that's when he won this race. Geoffrey Fournier just passed Stefan Roll as well, so another move for Geoffrey Fournier, who's really had to fight for it in this race. It's like a game of snakes and ladders, but just with no snakes. He's just climbing. So Geoffrey Fournier is now going to pass Leon Bok. Surely, he's so close to him into the braking zone there. I was almost wondering whether he'd go for a move down there. You can do it sometimes, but now he's going to line up Leon towards the Esterol hairpin, and this could be an important one in terms of the strategy of this race, because they are on slightly alternate strategies, and Fournier getting a little held up here. DRS active, also in front of them. Simoncic has no chance in fending off Yannick Bok. Bok goes through, Fournier now on the outside of Leon, and makes that stick as well. Great move from Fournier. You can tell he likes to overtake. Down into the Nürburgring chicane once again, and Fournier's next target is Yoni Simoncic, directly ahead of him. And this is the kind of battle that Simoncic's setup was not cut out to do. Oh, very defensive. Whoa, that was late. That was very late indeed there for Yoni Simoncic, but just about fair, I'd say.
Yeah, and Fournier just needs to keep his cool now. He's going to get past these guys anyway, I think. The two-stop really doesn't seem to be the optimal strategy here, even though these guys all tried it. Yeah, that's a very good move.
Dives it up the inside. I told you can make a move there. You need to have a quite significant speed advantage over your opponents, but that's what Fournier had, and he made the most of it. Stefan Roll now into the pit as we speak, and onto the straight once again. So that means that Fournier's next target is Yannick Bok in 3rd position. Good Fournier got to get a podium from, I think, 12th on the grid.
Yeah, it could very well be possible. I really can see him end up on the podium. Currently, he's my favorite to end up in 3rd place. I'm just going to say it now. Actually, I wanted to say it a little bit earlier because when I saw him moving up. But yeah, he's definitely the favorite to end up in 3rd now. His pace is so much better than the two-stoppers. And even when he pits again, he will be coming out around these guys again as well. And he will have the pace advantage again.
Yeah, the win still seems to be between Keersmakers and Winnick, but 3rd place now very much between Bok and Fournier, unless something drastic happens in the remainder of this race. We're also approaching the start of the 3rd pit window for those who are making 3-stop strategies, and that could really spice things up as well. Oh, that wasn't the greatest of chicanes there from Geoffrey. He's been making a great race so far, although got a little bit balked through there. Now, Yoni Simoncic and Leon Bok are both in the pits this time around. Simoncic came in just... did he come in just ahead of Leon or just behind? I can't remember, but anyway, he's going to come out just ahead of him. And Leon is on the softer tyres. Oh, that's going to be close there with Simoncic and Stefan Ruhl. Simoncic just behind Stefan. And he's going to have the DRS here, but as we know, Simoncic's slower than the majority of his rivals on the straight, and with Ruhl also getting the DRS. Oh, and they touch wheels in the braking zone, and they almost lock wheels, they almost go around. Somehow they stay away. They stay the right way around. Ruhl 11th, Simoncic 12th. Simčić has been dropping like a stone in this race, I think partly because of his setup. Up the inside goes Gobby on... Whoa, and backs out of it. Looked as if Gobby was going to go through on Buck there. Had to decide whether discretion was the better part of valor, and it was. Now another lap, and Fournier is a lot closer to Buck. He gained another 1/10 of a second, and could that be the crucial 1/10 of a second that allows him to get past Yannick on the straight? He's close. Not sure if he's close enough for a move, but we shall see. He's got the DRS open, he's approaching. So close, he really was close into the braking zone there. Now we're watching Fidok and Ruhl over. No, never mind, Fournier coming back at Buck on the exit of the hairpin. And did have to back out of it that time. Wow, I wasn't sure if he was going to, because you don't normally see a driver going for that unless they think they can get through.
Look at this, by the way, look for the lead. The gap for the lead has massively shrunk, and Matchem Leinik is now within 1.3 seconds of Laurent Keersbeek, so he's actually nearly within DRS, and that's purely because of the tire compound difference, I think.
Winnick's flying, look at his lap.
Yeah, it's half a second per lap.
Yeah, sorry about that, but yeah, Winnick 1:11 and a 1:11.664, and that is the fastest lap so far in this race. That was much faster than anything we've seen so far from Laurent Keersmakers. Not to say that Keersmakers has been slow, he's leading the race for a reason, but Winnick is gaining. And yes, a lot of that is because of the disparity in tyres. Winnick, of course, on the soft.
Keersmakers. Fournier now, he's going to go for the move. Sorry.
Fournier on Buck, this is for third. Oh, they touch as well! We've seen a lot of that, drivers leaning on each other through the hairpin, but Fournier makes it stick. Amazing stuff from Geoffrey Fournier on the softer tyres. Through he goes, past Yannick Buck, and Geoffrey Fournier, if he can make it to the end of this race on one more stop, which I think he can, is in a very good position for third place. What a drive from him so far, Wopke.
Yes, that's a very good drive and a very good overtaking maneuver again. The door got closed on him, but he knew he was alongside, so he knew he had the chance to get Yannick Buck there, and now he's in the prime position to get that podium spot, even if he has to pit again, because Yannick Buck obviously also needs to pit again, and he's probably going to do so soon. Actually, he's going to do so right now.
Indeed, Yannick into the pits as we expected. Maybe he was just staying out for as long as he could hold up Geoffrey Fournier for, and it's going to be about track positioning on the exit, as well as we've seen so many times in this race. Also, Reus and Fournier still absolutely going at it down the straight there. And they're going to come out right alongside Yannick Buck. Wow, Buck almost merging in between them, and he will merge in between them. Look at this. He's on the outside of Ruhl, who twitches and almost touches him. He does touch him. Wow. Gets away with it. Yannick now with DRS from Matthias Moos. Defends hard. And Ruhl around the outside. Knows that might be his last opportunity for a while. Oh, they tag wheels once again. And Yannick Buck gets 8th place. This has been such an entertaining race, so much going on all of the time. The strategy keeping it so exciting. This reminds me of a Formula 1 race from around about the 2011-2012 season, where the tyres used to be really quite melty, and there used to be maybe 3 or 4 stops per driver every race, and you used to get situations like this where you didn't know who was where or what was going on. And it's a bit of a throwback, this race. Of course, not so much as not sure if you remember the 2017 Superleague series, where they used to make something like 7, 8, 9 stops every race.
Definitely remember those. I drove in them.
That was quite an era, but this race almost feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's something of that. Yeah, like a little bit less, of course, but still, yeah, there's a lot of pit stops going on. And I really love the fact that the people have taken a little bit of a risk, because obviously the 2-stop is always the best option to go for, but this time it looks like the 3-stop has the edge. And the people...
Ragusa and Zapala, sorry, side by side down into... This is going to be close. Whoa! Ragusa, getting sideways, having to give room to Zapala on the inside. He doesn't want to, but he grudgingly gives room. these are two drivers whose strategies have been working pretty well as well. In the background, Brill and Buck getting involved. And they're almost going 3 wide with Moose. Wow! And somehow they stay safe. This is a 5-way fight for the P5 at this point in this race. A lot of 5s in that.
Zapala's holding everyone up massively, I think. But they can't find a way past.
Importantly for Zapala, of course, he has made a very different strategy in this race to a lot of it, and he comes in. But yeah, that's only... is that only his second stop? Yes, that's only his second stop. So he's gone for a very different strategy to a lot of the drivers around him, and that's put him in a good position to jump well up the order. And yes, he's dropped down to maybe P18 at this point, but in the remaining 20 laps of this race, he's going to be gaining places once again. Moose there went for a move on Ragusa and then dropped behind Raw in the process. So Moose making a bit of a mistake. Ragusa's going to come out, because he still has to make a stop, I think, but he's going to come out around the same point on the track as Zapala. And both of those are probably going to work their way back into the top 10 by the end of this race, unless I'm very much mistaken.
We really need to keep an eye on the lead now. Matchem Leinek is now within DRS range. 0.6 seconds. He's got the DRS open. I think he's just a little bit too far away right now, but he will be trying to overtake. Laurent Keersmaker is on track for the lead.
This is such an important battle though, because yes, they're both going to have to stop again, but both of them are going to be going onto the soft tyre. And as a result, it's going to be a bit of a stalemate at that point. They're going to be battling with an equal opportunity. And now, this is the last chance that Mathieu will get to pass Laurent on a different tyre compound. So can he do it, or is Laurent going to fend him off? This is a critical point in the race for both of these drivers, and they know it. And I love the way in Grand Prix length races, you often get kind of relatively lull periods in the middle of the race, and then it all comes back together at the end as the strategies kind of even out. But in this race, you're not going to get that because it just never extended. You know, with the different strategies, putting drivers in and amongst packs that they weren't. And who's that off the road? Someone's gone for a bit of a spin. Ragusa there has gone for a spin further back. Now he was running right up the order, but has dropped well back and is not going to come out anywhere near Giovanni Zapala like I expected. So something went very wrong for him. But anyway, still has his wings.
Yeah, he got tapped from behind by Geyer. I think it's worth looking at the replay here, if we can, from Ragusa's point of view. So that was quite a massive crash.
And sooner rather than later, actually, because we've got Winnick all over the back of Keersmaker's. Don't worry, I'll let you know if something is actually going on between the two of them. But the gap now is less than 0.3 of a second. This is fantastic stuff. Also, Rule is now the fastest driver on the track. Not sure he's going to be able to catch Colin Spork before the end of this race, but he's pulling away from Matthias Moos, and that's important to him. Now, with 18 laps to go in this race, Mathieu makes his stop, and I'm not surprised about that, because that is going to give him the undercut, surely. And
this is perfect time to look at the replay now, yeah.
Talk us through it, Wopke.
Yeah, here comes Ragusa. He's trying to overtake Geyer around the outside. He cuts across in front of him. Geyer misjudges the braking, and look at Ragusa. He's going upside down there. I think there was a little touch between Geyer and Ragusa here if we look at the replay in slow motion at the braking zone. I think Ragusa just brakes. You can see the DRS closing, and then there's just a slight tap there from Geyer's side, and that sends Ragusa all the way up in the air, upside down. He makes a few flips, and that car is not going to be looking good after that, I think.
Yay. Well, I often say that cars in Factor 2 are absolute tanks. They can continue from accidents that would be hugely unrealistic in real life. But anyway, and that's just shown by the fact that Ragusa hasn't even lost his wing or anything like that in this race. Yannick Buck just passed Matthias Moos. Meanwhile, if you're wondering about Mathieu Winnick, he has dropped behind Colin Spork. Spork, of course, also still needs to make a stop. They're teammates, so I don't expect that Spork will hold off Maciej Winnick for long, I would be very surprised if he doesn't stop this time. Surely Sport's going to pit. Yes, he does. So Sport comes in, Winnick stays out, Keersmakers is now in the pits. Where does he come out? Surely Maciej is going to be alongside him on the exit. Into Esterol, Maciej on the inside. They're going to be side by side up the straight. It's neck and neck for the lead of the race. Lauren needed to react there, needed to cover off Maciej Winnick. He has the DRS. He was slightly behind in the activation zone. Winnick has the outside line, tries to drive it all the way around, but runs slightly too wide. Lauren Keersmakers somehow keeps the lead of the race, despite Maciej going for the undercut and very nearly making it. Sporks off the road. Whoa, big touch with Leon Buck. And almost touched again, mid-corner with Matthew Williams. Borg so nearly lost control there. He keeps P8. And it's absolute drama wherever you look, once again, as it has been for this whole entire race.
Yeah, and I think that was crucial for Keersmakers that he got the DRS there. That made him stay ahead of Mlinick, and now he's still got a chance to win. He's on lap fresher tires as well, so that's going to give him a slight edge compared to his old set of mediums that he had before.
Fantastic. So another lap. Will Winnick be close enough to attack Lauren Keersmakers? It's tough enough because, as I said before, they're in a bit of a stalemate. Neither of them are going to have to stop again. They're both on the same compound tyre. Those tyres are about the same age as well. It's all down to what Winnick can do with the DRS, with the overspeed, with the slipstream. To the outside line once again. Turns in, almost hoping that Lauren Keersmakers disappears. And they're still side by side on the exit. Now Keersmakers will have the right of way into the chicane. Once again. Now the rest of the lap will be about Winnick trying to put pressure on Lauren and force him into a mistake. Force him to get a bad run down the straight the next time around. This is a battle that could go all the way. And Winnick dipping wheels into the grass there. Approaching the Esterol chicane. Trying to use every inch of the track and more in order to fight with Lauren Keersmakers for the victory of this race. This could go either way, and it is fantastic to see it happening like this. Third place could go either way as well. Royal's caught up to Fournier, and he's still flying as well. So Fournier versus Royal is one that's going to go on for a little while. But Winnick versus Keersmakers is the one that we're all watching, the one that we're all holding our breath for. The gap, once again, is less than half a second out of Esterol. This may be another opportunity for Winnick. I think he's going to be a little too far back this time. You really need to be about 0.4 of a second, not 0.5. And I know that doesn't sound like much of a difference, but it makes all the difference in a battle like this. And Lauren Keersmakers still ahead. 14 laps to go, Wopke.
Yeah, this is going to be 10 till the end, of course. They don't have any difference. Colin Sporks actually overtaken Leon Bock for P7. I was also going to say about Ruo in the meantime as well. He's pitted quite early. He's pitted on lap 43. So that's 27 laps he's got to do on those softs. I'm not sure he's going to make it. At least not with the pace he's currently driving.
And the fact that he's flying so fast as well, and setting 1:11.7s every lap shows me that maybe he's resigned himself to the fact that he's not going to be able to make the end. But then again, why wouldn't he have pitted for fresh softs sooner in this race, considering that they can absolutely go to the end? That doesn't really make that much sense, but I guess Stefan knows what he's doing. We'll keep an eye on that. For the time being, it does appear that he's a contender for third place in this race. But yeah, that is a very long way to go on these soft tires.
He does go for the move though, maybe? He has a look.
That's a long way back. Nope, has to back out of that one. That was just a difference in line, showing himself to the mirror. Colin Sport now passing Jernej Simoncic, and I'm afraid that was another pretty easy one down the straight. No disrespect to Jernej. Jernej's one of the quickest drivers I've ever had the pleasure of commentating on, but not in a straight line. He's certainly not a drag racer today, and that is probably because of his car and his setup, from what we can gather, and it's meant that he's had a bit of a disadvantage in straight line combat, but that puts him down into 7th now, so Spork back up to P6. and catching Yannick for P5. Now another lap for the leaders, Kiersmakers and Winnick. Across the line, less than 0.4 of a second. If he can keep that through Esterol, this could be another opportunity. Let's see what the gap is on the exit. It could be. It could be. Let's watch it. DRS open once again. So we see a new fastest lap from Colin Spork. Oh, still too far back from Mache, but look how close he is. That is so close. This is one of the battles for the ages. One for the highlight reel. I feel quite sorry for George Whitehouse, who makes these highlight reels actually, because he's gonna have to go through all of this race and pick the best movements and the most important movements. And how do you pick the most important movements from a race where every single second has mattered? Talking of that, Matthias Moose now on the outside of Germano Zappala. And Zappala keeping 12th on the exit. Hi George, if you're listening to this, by the way. Hope you're enjoying going back through the footage and editing the highlight reel. I imagine this is a much more fun job right now for the commentators and the drivers than it is for you. But anyway, I really enjoyed the last highlights reel from Hockenheim. Once again, Gearsmakers and Winnick onto the straight. Roll is in the pits. Oh, so Roll was not able to go to the end of the race as you hypothesized there, and I'm not hugely surprised by that. That means that Bok is 4th. That's Yannick 4th. The other Bok, Leon, is in 7th. Colin Spork is 5th, and then it's Yoni Simoncic 6th, and Fabrizio Gobbi 8th. Not a bad drive from Gobbi. Roll could have got a better result from today, although hasn't played his cards right in terms of the strategy, I'm afraid to say. And he's going to be 9th at worst.
I still think he could make up some good time though with the rubber. He can absolutely burn those softs now. And with the pace he was setting earlier already on the other set of softs, he could still get a few positions possibly. Especially as these guys obviously also have quite a long stint on the softs or on the mediums. They may be dropping off as well. So yeah, I'm still interested in seeing that. But Colin Spork is one of the guys we need to watch for 4th place as well, because he's got the pace right now as well. I also wanted to say that unfortunately the youngest driver in the Super League has now retired from the race with an engine failure.
Well, it was a decent first race for Moritz. He didn't have the pace, but he gave it a good chance. He gave it a good shot, and he lasted a relatively long time. Was actually running ahead of some of his opponents for some of the race as well. So yes, this did seem like a bit of a test session rather than a race for Moritz, but you have to remember. Oh, and very wide goes Mache. Look at that, very wide. He's going to lose maybe half a second in that, and he's dropped out of DRS range. Now that's partly because of the dirty air of Lauren Kiersmaker's car up ahead, but also I think a little mistake there from Mache. And is it just getting too much for him? Is he maybe... Well, I don't think he would have ruined the tyres that quickly. I very much doubt that he would have done. But is he maybe just getting too frustrated now? I think if he is, then that's going to give Lauren Kiersmakers the win. But it's still too early to call that. We've still got 9 minutes left, or 9 laps left in this race, which to be honest is about 9 minutes considering the length of these laps. But a mistake there from Mache, and one of the first mistakes that we've seen from him all day.
Yeah, and actually, Kiersmakers has picked up the pace a little bit. Last lap, 2 laps ago, he set the quickest lap for himself, and now he's just done like nearly the same lap time again. So 1:11.3, 1:11.4, and Mlinek is not able to stick to that pace as much. Maybe he's not ruined the tires, maybe he's just overheated them a little behind Kiersmakers. Of course, the dirty air causes you to understeer, so you have to make more steering input to go through the corner at the right speed, and that may cost you a little bit. So maybe now he's trying to cool off and try again in the final few laps of the race.
And I said that Stefan Roll would be 9th at worst, but he's now up into 8th place, so to Moritz Fabrizio Gobbi a position. He'd have to gain about 6 seconds or so to pass Leon Bok ahead of him. Might be doable, considering the pace we've seen from Stefan. He's the only driver to have got into the 110s so far in this race, which is insane lap time for race conditions. Remember, the pole time was in the 109s. But anyway, so Stefan, maybe he can do it. He's on fresh tyres. Sorry, he's not the only driver to have been in the 110s. Colin Spork has been in the 110s as well, and actually has the fastest lap of this race so far. Spork, meanwhile, all over the back of Yannick Bock. That's probably going to change before the end of the race. Looking at that, or possibly I should say, because at this late stage in the race, these drivers will be defending for their lives. Out of the hairpin once again, Yannick still ahead of Colin. And further back we see the fight for P10, Ray Kilk, Thomas Rock. Behind them, Germano Zappala. Defending from Matthias Moos. Oh, and is that Matthew Williams going around the outside? Good bit of ambitious driving from Matthew Williams, and it pays off. He makes a move. Gets another couple of points from Matthias Moos. Good driving there from Matthew.
Yeah, really good move there, and this pack seems to be really close here from P10 to P14. So there could still be a lot of changes there as well.
Isn't it amazing that after all this time of racing, you know, after these drivers have been putting in the exact same inputs to each other at almost exactly the same time for over an hour, they're still so close. I mean, it's amazing how evenly matched these drivers in this field are, and it just shows you that perfection is it gets harder to gain the seconds the closer you get to perfection, and as a result, the fields with better drivers tend to be the closer fields. Even if you look, oh, is Williams now trying the same thing that he tried on Moose but on Germano Zappala? Not quite as successful that last time around. But even say the Formula Challenge field, if you look at that, it's not as close as the Super League field, despite having absolutely identical cars. I kind of dissed myself in that, considering I've qualified at the back of the field in Formula Challenge a couple of times. But it just amazes me every time we get to the end of a Grand Prix length race, and the cars are still separated by a matter of, you know, split seconds like that. But I guess that's how racing goes. Meanwhile, Winnick is trying his absolute hardest to break back into the DRS range of Laurent Keersmakers. It's still close. It could still go either way. It is not over yet, but he really does need that DRS. He is suffering without it. And Laurent knows that all he has to do is keep driving as he's driving now to win this race, Wopke.
Yeah, that's very true. He just needs to keep Lennox out of the DRS range. Actually, as I say that, he's just right on the edge and actually just within DRS range now. So if he keeps this up until the end of the lap and until the DRS activation zone, or detection zone, I should say, then he could be in for a treat here for himself.
He might just get it. Looking at the times, he might just get it. Let's see, keep an eye on that rear wing, see if it opens on the exit of Esterol. I don't think it will, Oh, it does! He is in DRS range. And that's important because that means that he's going to be gaining. And it's going to be tougher for him to drop outside of the bubble again, or tougher for Laurent Keersmakers to knock him outside of the bubble again. Also, we have a little bit of traffic coming up. I see a car in the near distance, and let's hope they can get past them as quickly and cleanly as possible. It's Christian Pascal in one of the MDR cars, and he will be being told by Jack Mayer right now that he's got two battling race leaders on his tail. And it's important actually to tell the driver that there's two of them, because sometimes let's take a look quickly at Zappala and Williams. Oh goodness, almost touching on the exit. Zappala once again keeping P12, and these are points paying positions. It's not like Formula 1 where only the top 10 score points. It's the top 15 here, which means they absolutely still have points to play for down there, and that's why they're still fighting so hard.
They're now well and truly back within DRS range. 0.6 once again when the activation zone started. And the traffic's still not cleared, as there's still a car ahead of them, which is Christian Pascal in the MDR team car. And he knows how to drive, so he will probably get out of the way cleanly.
This is a tense situation though, and Winnick is now within half a second of Keersmakers for the first time since his mistake a few laps ago. You can tell by the body language of these two cars that they know that they are re-engaging in battle with just three and a bit laps to go. 3 laps plus a couple of corners now before the end of this race. Actually, I think 4 laps, because lap 70 counts, doesn't it? Anyway, across the start-finish line, 4 laps to go now. Still, they've got that back marker just ahead of them. The blue flags, I haven't seen any blues yet, but now they will come out, surely. And actually, that is going to be holding up Keersmakers a little into the Esterol Corner. Winnick getting closer. He's getting closer. They both have the DRS, though. They both had the DRS. Now, if only Winnick had had it there, I think he would have got past Laurent.
Yeah, I think Keersmakers got held up there a little bit, but I think he got saved by the fact that he also got the DRS and the slipstream from the back marker as well. So in the end, it all evens out, and Winnick is still behind Keersmakers, but he is really close to the back of him now, and it does look like he's saved the tires a little bit, as Ruo now gets past Leon Bock for 7th place, so he's making his way up. And next up is Yuri Simasic.
Big twitch from Keersmakers. He keeps it under control but he had a big twitch up through Esterol. And Keersmakers so nearly ran into the back of him. That could have been race ruining for the two of them. Jeffrey Fournier is sitting there in 3rd place, remember? I mean, he is 11 seconds back, but still. Now, 3 laps remaining in this race. Is anything going to happen this time around? Remember, Keersmakers will not get the DRS this time, like he did a lap ago from Christian Pascal. We're going to get DRS for Maciej Winnick, but he's too far back. He's half a second back, and we've seen from previous experience, he needs to be maybe a 1/10 of a second further up the road. Oh, there's another back marker coming up though. I see another back marker in the near distance, and that's Daniel Stepkowski in the powered by RSR car. So keep an eye on that. This is one of the tensest finishes to a Super League race that I've seen in a while, and that's saying something because we've had some tense ones. Look at Spork on the outside of Yannick Bock, and going through. Excellently done. Colin Spork up into 4th place, as Vril and Simoncic fight further back as well. So, oh my goodness, everyone kicking off in the top 10. Spork, the most successful of those for this particular lap. He is P4 now. Great stuff. Vril and Simoncic still Oh no!
He tried to go back at Rual, but he braked too late for the 180-degree corner, and he went into the gravel a little bit, and now he's lost the position to Leon Bock as well.
Leon Bock P7, Yanni Simoncic P8. Goodness, wow, big shame there. As Rural, remember he was P9 when he came out the pits for the last time. I told you he might well catch Leon. He's not just caught Leon, he's caught Yerny and passed him. And Yerny's gone off the road. So Stefan there, still on course for a very good result. I think we're going to see a replay of something here. Is it going to be Yanni Simoncic going off? Yes, it is. He's on the back of Stefan Rural. Oh my goodness, wow, I'm not sure if he meant to go up the inside there. May have just done it as an avoiding manoeuvre, because he found himself going so much faster heading into the corner than Stefan, and had to go to the inside to avoid slamming into the back of him and maybe flying over the top of him. That was very close.
Roal is still trying to hunt down Yannick Bock as well. I think he's just a little bit too far away, unfortunately for him, but yeah, he's still trying to.
Fidok's got Moose there for P14, so that's a couple more points going the way of David. David looked as if he was going to score a lot more points earlier on in this race, but then lost out. Anyway, final lap of the race, and Keersmakers and Winnick are separated by 7/10, so it's not going to be close enough for Winnick to go for a move into the Esterol hairpin. If he is going to do something, he's going to need to get creative. He's going to need to go for something that he hasn't gone for before. Oh, that wasn't great through the hairpin though. Missed the apex ever so slightly. He may need a mistake from Casemakers now. I think that if Casemakers keeps it clean, he's got it in the bag. Let's keep watching Lauren Casemakers just to make sure that he gets through cleanly. He still has that back marker to get past just ahead of him. As we head towards the final sector of the lap, you can see them in your inset there. Lauren Casemakers. The inset's actually slightly behind. The inset's maybe about 20 or so seconds behind. Now it's in real time. And in the final couple of corners, Lauren Casemakers catches the back marker, but it's okay because he's going to win here at Magny-Cours. There he goes, fantastic race. Lauren Casemakers wins, and what a close finish that was, with Matching Winnick only about 8/10 behind him. Brilliant stuff. Jeffrey Fournier, great drive to third place as well, from 12th on the grid. Colin Spork climbed up plenty of places as well after dropping back on the first lap. He is going to be 4th. Then it's Yannick Bock and Stefan Rohr crossing the line almost side by side. And then it's Leon Bock and Yoni Simoncic, who gets very out of shape. Whoa! Simoncic crashes across the line, or spins across the line rather, and does a little nervous wiggle there as he celebrates not having thrown it away at the very last corner. Fabrizio Gobbi is P9. Right, Kilk is going to lead home an absolute trail of cars. My goodness, it's like watching one car with 28 wheels. Kilk is 10th, then it's Wok, Zapala, Fiduk, Williams, and Matthias Moose is going to claim the final points paying position. Missing out on points were Merculicini, Robin Panzer, Sandeep Singh, Daniel Stepkowski, Christian Pascal, Florian Gaia, Giuseppe Ragusa, and then the retirements Moritz Kropp and Giuseppe Saracino. What a race that was! Wow, Wopke, do you dare pick a driver of the day from that?
Well, it's very tough to say, but one of the drivers that really stood out for me today was Jeffrey Fournier with the overtaking he did. He really made his way forward from a starting position, and that's always great to see. I know Casemakers and Mlinick, they obviously should be in it as well. They've dominated the rest of the field, I think, and there was nothing between them in qualifying, and there was still nothing between them in the race.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Casemakers that he did such a good job to bring that home ahead of Winnick. Had to fend off so much pressure, and I know from experience that pressure like that is not easy to withstand. That was excellent stuff there. So there are your results. Casemakers, Winnick, Fournier, Spork, Bock, Roll, Bock, Simoncic, Gobbi, and Kilk, the top 10. Then it's Wok, Zapala, Fiduk, Williams, and Moose, the final points paying positions, and then Lucchini, Panzer, Singh, Stepkowski, Pascal. And then outside of the top 20, Gaia, Ragusa, Kropp, and Saracino. That's the lot. Don't go anywhere though. We still have some interviews and some closing words from some of the main people involved in these races. First of all, let's talk to a certain debutant from today's race, Moritz Kropp. So Moritz, that didn't end in the way that you wanted it to, and didn't really start in the right way either with that qualifying. But how did it feel out there in your first GPVWC Super League race?
Yeah, it obviously was really great. I couldn't believe what was going on when I started the race. I mean, it was from the pit lane, but still, it was a big moment for me. Yeah, when you consider where I started the season. Yeah, I mean, my engine failed at the end, but I'm still happy about the result. I mean, with a 15-minute notice, I can be happy.
And as the youngest and newest driver on the field, you have quite a steep learning curve ahead of you. I'm sure you know that. Do you have a plan in place for how you're gonna get up to speed, get on top of the car and the setups and whatnot?
Yeah, I do. I just from driving behind other drivers, I learned so much this race. Just taking different lines and playing with the dirty air, especially, it was a challenge today because it's quite different to the Super Cup car. It has a lot more downforce, and yeah, so just tire wear stuff, and yeah, not much more.
And what was it that eventually put you out of the race in the end?
Yeah, well, it was an engine failure. I just, I drove down the straight and the engine failed. I mean, I wasn't too upset about it, to be honest, because because there were no expectations in the beginning. Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but yeah, what do you want to do? I started the race with a 30% engine, so yeah, I'm happy.
Well,
So,
it sounds like you really enjoyed your first Super League experience, and yeah, good luck for your future outings. I'm sure we're going to see plenty more from you.
thank you very much.
So there goes Moritz Kropp, who Menno seems to really believe in as the Adonis Engineering team boss. And to be honest, after commentating on Moritz's races from Super Cup, I know why. I can totally believe that he's put his trust in the right place. Anyway, let's bring in our race winner, Lauren Keersmakers. Lauren, are you there?
Yes, good evening.
Lauren, you had to hold off so much pressure all the way throughout that race. Oh my goodness, Maciej Winnick was putting so much pressure on you. How did that feel?
Well, first of all, the setup was just amazing. So I could really trust on the car. That made it for me. I will not say easy to hold off Maciej, but it gave me the confidence to brake late, to keep the position and so on. So yeah, I think a lot was in the setup today.
And what's your strategy? Did you stick to your strategy, or did you keep yourself flexible and make your mind up kind of as the race went along?
I started the race with the intention to do 2 stops, but then I saw that Maciej, after a mistake of mine in the hairpin, Maciej got behind Jurne, and I know Jurne typically does a 2-stopper. So then I saw my chance to just switch to a 3-stopper, and just go flat out throughout the race. But then it was also the meaning to go soft medium then soft again. But because of the pushing, I went through the tires a bit too soon, so I decided to go soft medium then soft again, which made it of course difficult to hold off Maciej. And also I was a bit surprised that he went into the pit stop for the undercut. And I knew that lap on the mediums, which would have been my PB on the medium set, should have been the best lap that I would drive, because it was really like a qualifying lap.
Lauren, am I right in saying that that's your first GPVWC Super League win in something like 15 years?
Yes, I think that must be kind of a record, yeah?
Wow, that's got to be the record for the most time in between wins. But that's a fantastic record to have, because it shows you never give up and you come back strong. And what a drive it was. Wopke, do you have anything to add for our race winner here?
Well, first of all, obviously a massive congratulations to our winner. And yeah, very impressive that there's so much time between those wins, and it's especially interesting to see that most of the the early winners in GPV, they kind of seem to tail off, like as if they're like at the end of their career and they get a little bit worse. But that doesn't seem to be the case for you, and it's great to see you still up front there.
Yeah, indeed. But it's really very very hard working. So after my disconnection in the previous race, I was a bit frustrated. So the day after, I started making the setup for this race. So let's say about 2 weeks ago that the setup was ready, and then it was just 2 weeks the time I had, just testing and trying to focus on the driving. And yeah, today it finally paid off.
Fantastic. Well, it absolutely paid off, and what a spectacular way to do it as well. Congratulations. And
thank you.
And that's your first podium of the season as well, so enjoy that
Yes.
massive points haul, and you're about to shoot up the standings.
Yeah, I think so. I almost doubled my amount of points, so yeah, that's very good for the standings.
Very good. Thank you, Lauren. Anyway, we're now going to interview the driver who so nearly won the race in the end there. Maciej Winnick, are you there?
Yeah.
So that was also your first podium of the season there, and it could have been a win. And from that pole position, how are you feeling? Are you disappointed, or do you think that's about as good as you could have done?
I'm slightly disappointed because I think I had maybe tiny bit more pace than Laurent. But yeah, I lost too much positions on the start, I think, because I had some issue that I didn't hear the lights going out, and I was a bit disoriented. I thought for a moment that I have a penalty for jumping, but fortunately I didn't. But I dropped behind Tierney, and staying behind him costed me a lot of time, and who knows what could have been on the line if I didn't stay behind Tierney. But yeah, overall I think I could have fought Laurent and maybe won, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah, so that does explain what happened at the start there. Now there was one point in the race which was very important, where you were about 3 seconds behind Laurent, and then you both pitted, and Laurent came out on another set of mediums, and you came out on another set of softs, and you both ran about the same amount of time on those tires, but you were able to gain all of that time and get right onto the back of him. Were you surprised that Laurent went for the mediums there, and did you think you were going to get through?
I didn't know he went for mediums until I got close to him. So yeah, I was very surprised that he went for mediums. I thought he would go for softs and just manage the gap to me. But yeah, I was very surprised that he went for mediums, but seems like it paid for him because he could push on his in-lap and defend the undercut from me.
And how were the tires today? Did you have to nurse them much?
Not really. I mean, I pushed them a bit too much in beginning of final stint, so I was thinking about backing off a bit to save the front tires, just to try and attack at the end. But apart from that, tires weren't a big issue today.
Well, congratulations on your first podium at this season. Wopke, do you have anything to add for our second place finisher?
No, I think you did a good job in asking all the questions, and yeah, again, congratulations. I know it's a bit unfortunate that you didn't get the win, but still, that's a massive result for you, and that's your first podium of the season, so that's very good. And yeah, I believe also your first pole position in Super League, so that was very good as well.
Yeah, it was my first pole position, and by the smallest of margins, I will take it.
Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So that is the end of this broadcast today. But thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did, because this was a very entertaining round of GPVWC Super League. Remember to join us in 2 weeks' time. We will be at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and that, of course, is one of the most classic race circuits of the season. And you will not want to miss that, because that provides such good racing every single time we go there. If you want to get involved in GPVWC yourself, then make sure to head over to the website, and you can find details there of how to get involved. You'll probably find your way into the Discord server, and then you should start with the Academy series. And it is very much worth it, because this is a lot of fun. Thank you to Wopke Hoekstra for joining me in the commentary box today. And thank you as well to Argo Tida, who provided all of the cameras that you saw, as well as the broadcast. And of course, everyone else behind the scenes, the people who made the graphics and set up the event and made the mods for the track. There's a big team behind GPVWC, and they make some fantastic racing. So thanks to everyone who made today possible, and we will see you again in 2 weeks' time. Good night.